Hello, everyone. Welcome to LexTalk World's talk show presented by Recovery Creators. Today, we have Mr. Vaibhav Mishra with us. Vaibhav is a commercial dispute resolution lawyer, having practiced at Supreme Court of India, the Delhi High Court, Arbitration Tribunals, and Delhi District Courts as well. He's currently working as legal counsel of Ms. Devi Bhumi Cold Chain Pvt, and he has also been associated with top-notch law firms of India in his past. We will, of course, dwell down to his career and learn more about his practice and his cases and his past. But without further ado, let's welcome him for the sessions. Hi, Vaibhav. How are you?
Thank you so much for your kind introduction. I'm fine. Hope you're doing well as well.
I'm doing beautiful. Thank you very much for asking, and really appreciate you getting some time out of your busy schedule for this session. And without wasting any further time, I won't take much of your time, and just want to dwell down to this. If you can tell us about, or I just want to know about, first of all, a complex legal issue that you have worked upon recently or in your past, and I also want you to, if you can sort of describe the complexity around it and how you basically approach it, that would be highly appreciated.
So I'll give two cases. Doing commercial litigation, you get a lot of cases like that. But first one was for a client based in Telangana who had a contract at the Indo-China border in Sikkim. Now, this was back in 2017, 2018. The client had got a contract from CPWD to work on the Indo-China border for road constructions. Now, the client had constructed some part of the roads and some part was still left to be done. For whatever reasons, it was not completed in due course of time, and it was elongated by taking due permission from CPWD. But for some reason, the agency did not extend after some time the remaining part of work which was still left and part of the agreement which it had with the client. And without informing the client and without terminating the agreement, it had issued a fresh notification, fresh circular for fresh tender of the same work for which there was already an agreement with the client. So first we approached Sikkim High Court. We filed a writ under 226 of the Constitution, Res Bit 227. That notice was issued, but there was no stay. And we wanted to seek stay from the court, but the High Court had declined to give stay on that. So then we went to Supreme Court and filed an SLP against non-grant of stay. But the whole process of first trying to argue before Sikkim High Court, not getting a stay there, then arguing in Supreme Court under an SLP, which then directed Sikkim High Court to at least decide my stay application, come what may, either this way or that way. So then we went back to Sikkim High Court, and in that time, in Sikkim, winters are quite long as compared to other parts of India. So the winter vacation is also quite long in Sikkim High Court as compared to other high courts all over India. So during winter vacation, we had to especially get it listed in Sikkim High Court. And Sikkim High Court is different from Delhi High Court or Bombay High Court or Calcutta or Madras High Court. So getting it listed and arguing for 1.5 to 2 hours, flying down there, and the whole journey from landing in Bagdogra in North Bengal and then driving all the way to Gangtok was a interesting story in itself. But then arguing and getting that stay and in favor of the client was something which I really cherish, because this was a fight for, I could have done an ugly job, I could have done a very bad job, I being the client, but the CPWD cannot terminate cannot issue a fresh notification without terminating my agreement. So that was a good case which we fought. Then eventually we got a stay from Sikkim High Court, and then the matter so long. So 11-12 times I had to go to Sikkim just for this matter, and then the matter went for arbitration, so on and so forth. This was an interesting case. The client was from Telangana, matter heard in Sikkim High Court, dispute arising at Indo-China border, and this happened during Doklam issue of 2017. So the MHA was keenly observing this case also because it wanted to construct road constructions. So and then we had to go to Supreme Court, get an order from them, and getting back to Sikkim High Court. So all the pan-India dispute was going on. So this was one case. Another case was in Delhi itself. So the client had a old mill in northern Delhi. Very old mills were one of the mills of 50s, 60s era, which it wanted to convert into a mall. Now the client had paid whatever conversion charges are there to NDMC. It came under NDMC, North Delhi MC. Now there is no NDMC, EDMC is one common MCD. But at that time, the client had paid the conversion charges to NDMC. Yet, there was some special body constituted by Supreme Court there was a body which oversaw all illegal construction done all over Delhi. I'm forgetting that body's name. It was led by Mr. Burelal. Uh, so that body was instigating NDMC not to give us, not to allow us and create a commercial mall there for reasons best known to them. We filed a writ. We got an order in our favor. We filed a contempt. After contempt, issue of directions were given to NDMC to allow them to start a construction there. They filed an appeal in division bench in Delhi High Court. We had to fight it out there. We won there also. They filed appeal. They then filed as SLP in Supreme Court, and there was a batch of matters pending in SLP regarding illegal construction all over Delhi and encroachments on roads and all. They got it listed with one of those matters, and the matter was still pending there as well. I was associated with that case last year, but then it eventually got in favor. So what was complexity here in this case was that we got a news from the client around evening, one day prior to our listing it and mentioning it to the court, that they have sealed our case, sealed the property, and that agency that being not NDMC, there's an overseeing body which was looking out. They had sealed it, saying that they are encroachment. This is my property. I just want to convert it from a mill to a commercial mall. How am I encroaching it here? So next day we had to file it in the registry. We had to mention before the same bench that this is happening to me. This is so illegal. After lunch, it was specially mentioned. It got listed around 4 p.m. Then we got an order around 5 p.m. Then we rushed it, showed it to the authorities, and got it desealed. So that whole process of first getting, and we got information one day prior evening. That whole process was kind of a journey in itself. Although it took 24 hours, but getting the paper listing done, getting it mentioned before the court, that was itself. One small case, which, with your kind permission, I can also mention, was a dispute between, there was a partition dispute between brother and sister. That was very sad. It was eventually a very sad case. Father had accumulated, I mean, with due hard work and grit and determination, a lot of properties all over Delhi. He had a business, and he had sari ka business tha unka, if I can say it in Hindi, sari ka business tha unka. So he had shops all over Delhi, including in South Delhi, South Extension, and West, and properties in West Delhi and all. So we were for the sister. The father had passed away. The brother was handling everything, all the properties and the family business. The sister, unfortunately, was a divorcee, and after her divorce, was living with the husband. Sorry, was living with her brother. So the brother took care of her and took care of her consideration and financial well-being. Later on, like in all families, the dispute started arose between brother and sister. Then out of one of the properties, the brother sold off, and he bought another property in Defense Colony, a posh area in South Delhi. And then he wanted to evict his sister. Sister said that you have bought this property from the sale of the earlier property, which was in the name of her father. So in connection to that, I have stake in this property also. You cannot throw me out. So there were two suits. One was filed by the brother, then a counter suit filed by the sister. We were fighting for the sister. So the interesting thing was we lost in the single judge, before single judge. I won't name the name of the judge. We lost before single judge, name that we don't have any title. We just claiming it through hearsay that this property was bought after sale liquidation of the early property, which was name of the father. So, but you don't have any documentation to support what you're saying. But we then filed an appeal before division bench. Apart from winning it on technical point of law, we also won on the point of, and here is the differentiation between a high court. I mean, I don't want to differentiate between judges, but here comes the differentiation when a judge with a higher wisdom comes into picture. And then he understands what the background. I mean, we'll find judges who will, of course, go to technicalities of law and give an order according to that. But this particular division bench judge then saw, and she said, it was a female judge, she said that it's the end of the day, it's a brother and sister dispute. So I'm referring this matter again to the division bench on this particular point of law and to decide again. And I distinctly remember this was around Rakhi Raksha Bandhan time 2019. August Raksha Bandhan. So the judge then in an open court said, at end of the day, you are brother and sister, have a good Rakhi and try to settle this now. So from losing it without having much clear title over the property, and then having the High Court judge say that at the end of the day, your brother and sister and Raki is on the corner, try to settle it out. And then we got a good offer from the brother that we just settle it, whatever the financial terms were. So it ended up, it led to that stage eventually, from nothing to getting at a stage where the High Court judge says that end of the day, your brother and sister have a happy Raki and don't do this. It doesn't look good. It's ugly. Any partition suit is ugly in court. But such cases, if you get an order like this from judge and he says it open court that your brother and sister have a happy Raki, so that you also, apart from the client satisfaction, you also feel satisfied that you have done something for the judge to say that to you. These were the few complex cases which I really, apart from having a turmoil while doing this, I kind of enjoyed the journey while doing that.
I mean, I enjoyed the journey hearing this. I mean, I hope the same for our viewers. And I would also want to not just have a reference of the first case, that the CPW1 case, which was Indochina's, and there's a construction issue that happened. So you have to travel all the way from here to Sikkim and have that load on you. If we talk about after 2020, things, especially in 2020 and 2021 during the pandemic, things have been changed. We saw some courts begin moving towards the remote proceedings. What do you think? I mean, because you have traveled, so I just want to ask you that way. You have traveled. What do you think? Is this sustainable? Like, moving towards the virtual court hearings, and is this a possible way to increase the access to justice? What's your opinion?
So I think it's a good thing in a way that in a hybrid, so it's a double-edged sword, if I can say this. The positive being that, of course, you can get access to different courts all over India, because I know someone who is sitting in Delhi appeared in a local district court in Agartala. I know someone doing that. And I myself have appeared in NCLT Mumbai while sitting in Delhi. So, of course, you can have access to a lot of courts in different points of time. The flip side is that sometimes during virtual hearings, you won't be able to press upon a certain argument which you would have ideally in a physical format, in a physical appearance. So that flip side is always there, and I have gone through that phase as well, where, because in a virtual hearing, I'll be sitting in my office, my senior advocate who I'm briefing, who has to argue, will be sitting in his office, and this happened during COVID phases. And the judge is, of course, sitting in court. So if I want to make a point which I think the senior advocate is not able to press upon, and I'm understanding what the judge is saying, but I can see the senior advocate is not understanding, and I need to give a chit of paper, I cannot do this virtually. I could have easily done that if this was a physical appearance. So then of course, you can WhatsApp and message the senior, but he's in the middle of an argument, he won't see your WhatsApp and messages. So that's a flip, and you cannot say it virtually, orally also, because someone is already arguing. How can two people argue at the same time? So that's a flip side of doing it virtually. Physically, of course, you can sit in one corner of the country and watch it. So recently, I was engaged in a matter which was in US, and sitting in India. Of course, timings were in the middle of the late night. We had hearings in Washington State. We were doing the hearings. So while sitting in India, we had engaged local lawyers there, but we could see virtually also sitting here. And evidence recording also took place. So our client witness was sitting in Delhi. The cross-examination opposite counsel was sitting in Washington State, and the cross-examination going on virtually. So that's a good thing of a virtual hearing. So that is there, but of course, there's a flip side also, that there are sometimes you might not be able to present your arguments better in a virtual hearing. And of course, so like in a lot of lawyers have suffered this, and specifically in Supreme Court, that sometimes your mic is switched off and you're not able to present your arguments. And no one can stop you from arguing physically, but if you're not able to present your arguments and your mic is switched off, be it technical, be it whatever reason, but that's again you're suffering as a lawyer, and apart from you suffering, your client is also suffering accordingly. So that's a flip side of virtual hearing as well.
I mean, this is the most innovative answer that I've heard. When you said that your senior counsel is arguing in your counsel, you cannot pass any comment. I mean, any hints or anything, any cues to him or her during the argument. So that's something that we never heard, or we haven't seen it. However, we have heard things like senior lawyers have created a podium in their own office so that they can feel the aura of a physical court and present their case. That has also happened during pandemic. My follow-up question to this was, what do you think, has the nature of the commercial litigation changed in post-pandemic world? I mean, now we are almost in post-pandemic. So has it changed corporate litigation?
Of course it has, and I've seen it myself. commercial litigation, because in a post-pandemic world, we live in a more of a virtual world. You'll see a lot of cryptocurrency dealings. You'll see a lot of NFT, non-fungible token tradings, which we did not see specifically before 2020. Of course, it was there, we heard about, but we did not see that. Based on that, there's more commercial transaction now. There's more RBI guidelines based on that. There's more disputes regarding that now. You'll see more apps with loan transaction, loan offers apps, which has recently been banned also. We did not hear that before pre-pandemic. It's more of a post-pandemic phenomena. More such commercial ventures, you'll see more such commercial litigation also. So these are the complexities which I have also personally seen. And the way I've seen commercial litigation change is that the client, because of financial well-being not being there, he would not prefer a senior advocate because of the costing. He would prefer a law firm partner to argue, or sometimes even a senior advocate, a senior associate of a law firm to argue, because he cannot afford a senior advocate's fees. That was not in the pre-COVID phase, but I can see that now in the post-pandemic phase. So these are small litigation changes which I've seen in commercial litigation has changed over time. Apart from virtual hearings and virtual dealings with the client, sometimes the client is more reliable and more comfortable with partners or a law firm arguing, or even a junior lawyer arguing, rather than a senior advocate. Even if it's complex, high-stake matter, he said, "I'll bear it out, no issue," but you argue it out. So that's one of the major differences I've seen in commercial litigation.
No, that's brilliant. I have another question about changes. I mean, and that's about the law firms and law offices. But before that, I would also love to understand. Whenever we talk to a lawyer, it's a very common question that we always want to ask for our viewers and for our understanding as well. How would you rate the current legal system's right towards encouraging access to justice? We all hear, there are so many pending cases, and justice being delayed and these things. Is there a tangible movement in closing the justice gap? What do you think?
So there is no simple answer to this. There will never be a foolproof formula for this. Reason being is that the population and the demography which this country has, you will never have justice or access for justice to everyone. Of course, you can increase the number of judges, but you will also have to consider that the quality of judges is the same as the quantity also. You can increase mobile courts. That's one example. You can take mobile courts to districts and all for small petty offenses. That's already there in a lot of states all over India, but you can increase that number. You can increase evening courts. You can increase night courts. A lot of high court judges, and even recently, I think Justice Chandrachud was the one who was sitting at 9 a.m. in the morning, and he made a comment that if our children can go at 6, 7 a.m. in the morning to school, why can't we sit at 9 a.m. in court rather than sitting at 10:30 or 11 a.m. in the court? So that's one way of getting more, reducing the caseload burden on the judiciary. There are a lot of high court judges, recently appointed high court judges, who sit till 6 in the evening or sometimes 7 in the evening. Apart from the famous cases being heard at 2 in the night or 3 in the night, I mean, you cannot make a precedent of hearing every case at 2 in the night, but of course you can extend the working hours. But then there's a flip side also. I've been a law clerk to a judge in Supreme Court, so I've seen how much judges work also. I mean, of course, in orders and judgment, you see a 2-page order, but how much work goes in that 2-page order? You have to sit and see the judge working, going through files overnight. So it takes a toll also on the judges. It's not simply easy to ask him to work till 7 in the night in courts. But then, if you want to increase the number of judges, also, in my opinion, what the government and judiciary can do is that mechanism they can expedite it. So if the recommendation goes from the judge to a ministry for recommendation of some elevation of some particular judge, even there's an adverse IB report, intelligence report is adverse for the particular person to be elevated to a judge. This happened recently quite a number of times. Just expedite the number. Then, okay, if this is not the right person, get a new person. Someone should not sit on the file. Sitting on the file is something I think is called loss to the public and loss to the exchequer and loss to the judiciary and to the executive. You should not sit on the file. Just expedite it, get some other person. All India Judicial Service is something which was to be reckoned with and to be enlisted and get registered, but it's still taking time. It was on the lines of all Indian services of IPS and IRS and IAS officers. So all India Judicial Service is something which will be for pan-India level rather than every state having their own judiciary examination. So that is something which I think the executive and the judiciary can do co-mechanism and work on accordingly. So I think these small things can do. But like I said earlier, there's no simple answer because of the demography of the country and number of people. There will always be litigation.
we were talking about a lot of changes, from the standpoint of justice, decreasing justice gap, and we also talked about the post-pandemic world and the, changing the changes in the commercial litigation. So keeping the change as the keyword, I also wanted to dwell down to what kind of changes have you been able to see over the years, of your experience in the working style of law firms and law offices of lawyers.
So now, I mean, in a post-pandemic world where everyone is fighting to get clientele, and practically speaking, so I mean, there used to be segregation of all law firm with different partners. Some would be specialized in arbitration, some would have specialization in insolvency, bankruptcy, some would in corporate law would have in private equity, someone in IPO launch, someone in project financing, so on and so forth. But due to in a post-pandemic world, everyone wants to have his or her share of the pie. They don't want to let go of client. So if I get a clientele and he wants to have one set of litigation with me regarding property law and so on and so forth, or partition law, but then he also wants to have his intellectual property right cases to be taken care of. So I won't be telling him to go XYZ lawyer. I can do that and handle it myself also. So that's one of the options and one of the things which I've seen recently. So that's one thing in the differences which I've seen, that no one wants to let go of clientele in the working style of law firm. Uh, so there was a lot of attrition rate in particular law firms in a post-pandemic world, but there was a good side also. A lot of law firms realized that this is a passing phase, and those law firms would be respected, those who had retained their talent, because talent is not easily available in the market today. You have a lot of quantity, but you won't have a lot of good quality. So a lot of law firms gave incentives for the talent not to leave also in the pandemic phase, realizing that this is a passing phase. And one day, when normalcy returns, my talent would remember who was sitting with besides him or who was standing besides her. So that's all. That was one couple of things which I saw in the changing working style of law firm. There was a more dwelling upon on taking care of the associates, junior associates, and senior associates, which must have been there earlier also, but I saw that more in a post-pandemic phase.
If I'm not wrong, when I was reading about you, you are first generation lawyer, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah.
Is right? Yeah. So I would say we all understand there are struggles. Everyone have their own struggles, not just someone who's the first generation lawyer, but everyone else. But I just want to understand from you what kind of struggle a first generation lawyer would face in the profession.
So there's a different kind of struggle in itself. I mean, about the first initial years, you won't have any uncle or any guidance to look up to. But that also depends upon person to person. So I've also seen second generation, third generation lawyers who might not have taken the legacy which was with them further. So they might, if their father or their uncle was a judge or was a senior advocate, I mean, they're also doing as best as they can. But if one would start judging them as comparing them to their father or their uncle or the grandfather, they would say that he or she might not have been as good or is still struggling to keep up with the pace. I mean, with all due respect, she or he is still trying his or her best. A first generation lawyer would, of course, will have a disadvantage that he has or she has no legal comfort level in the profession, specifically in litigation, where financial well-being is a question every day. So you live on a day-to-day basis. You would your struggles would be getting clientele. After getting clientele, then ensuring that the clientele stays with you, trying to get some panel work. After getting panel work for any department in a government sector or even in a private panel retainership work, then trying to ensure that you get work also. It's one thing getting a retainership panel, it's another thing getting work listed in your name. And then there's another thing getting your fees reimbursed later on. So that's a struggle for a first generation lawyer. That's a struggle for any lawyer, but that's a specific generation, specific trouble for a first generation lawyer. And during court arguments, you will see face recognition more towards those who are someone's nephew, someone's children, someone's brother, someone's sister. I have dealt it myself personally. I won't like to take names, but I've seen that has happened a lot. Someone who has been at someone's parties the special elite legal parties, he or she would be recognized more in a course of argument, in a course of law. Of course, you can rebut that with your own presentation of arguments. You can rebut that initial disadvantage which you are facing with your own course correction, your own set of judgments, your own set of facts, your own set of laws. You can, of course, do that. But that initial disadvantage will be there, which you will have to tackle. Now, having said that, first generation trouble will be in any profession. You will see that I think if I'm not wrong, that was seen in the film industry also sometime back when the Sushant Singh famous case took place. That you will see in the medical profession also of MBBS doctors also. You will see that in chartered architects also, chartered accountants also. But in legal profession, you will see this more because end of the day, a lawyer, apart from being an adversarial profession, is a social interactive profession. So we are known for our networking. We are known for our social skills. We are known on how we talk, how we draft, how we get along with people, sometimes how we don't get along with people. So bearing in mind all of these things, if there is certain disadvantage or if there is certain advantage for someone who is second generation, third generation lawyer, so that will be more palpable and that will be more in your face. So you will see that more in presence of 40 people, 50 people in a full court, be that High Court, be that Supreme Court, be that a district court judge. So that's a difficulty you will face as a first generation lawyer, apart from not having enough clientele, apart from not being able to put your arguments when the other lawyer is known to the judge or seen by the judge. So that's the initial disadvantage you will face. But of course, you have to overcome that, and from your own hard work and grit and work, you'll be able to overcome that. But your initial disadvantage will be there. But that initial phase would be for, I think, 2 years, 3 years. After 3 years, 4 years in the profession, if you're good enough and you have the talent and you have the working mindset and working mind style, you will be able to overcome that. So it depends, again, like I said before, it depends on person to person.
I mean, that's right. This year I had a lot of conversations with lawyers who were, first generation, and they have seen a lot of things happening. Even from the family standpoint. Let's say if someone's from a business background, it's very hard for them to digest that their son or daughter wants to be a lawyer. You know,
Yeah.
so kudos to you. I mean, that's really brilliant. And I believe you're a lawyer of my time, and my time is all about, or our time is all about technology. You see, even especially after pandemic, ironically, it brought a lot of disruption as well in the industry, especially in the legal tech. Finally, it's coming to our side of the world. So, in this era of technology, or rather, I should say, legal technology, I believe you must be using some tools. What are those tools that you use to ease out your day-to-day tasks?
So I'll give an example to you during the pandemic phase, especially in the first phase. So I was part of an organization called Jan Samvad, where we used to do online seminars. We used to call, and I used to be the host. We used to call retired judges, senior advocates, someone from the modeling industry, as to how each profession is suffered in the post-pandemic phase. So we did one session where we had called international lawyers. We had called a lawyer from Lahore, Pakistan. We had Indian lawyers, of course. We had called someone from London. The Lahore lawyer was sitting in Lahore. The London lawyer was sitting in London, and we had called an economist from Washington, DC. And we were doing the session sitting in Delhi. So everyone gave his or her own experience as to how he or she had suffered and how he or she was using technology. So it was very interesting to say that in Pakistan, although legal technology is there as similar to as it is in India, or available in South Asia, but they were not able to use that to full effective. So for similar, some example for property verification, you can still do this online sitting at your comfort of your home in Delhi. But the lawyer from Pakistan, Lahore, was saying that it's still the physical process there. Compare that to what the London lawyer had said as to how courts were taking place technological wise. He said the same thing. We are doing it by VC as to what we are doing it in India. So similar process. So they are using technology to their advantage. But what the Lahore lawyer said, that they still have to come to terms and to still have to use that. They have their own problems. So, and of course in India, our Indian law gave their own example that we are using technology here from district courts to High Court to Supreme Court. So apart from saving time, that's the biggest benefit of using technology. You also have to see that what is the surroundings. Of course, technology is there in Pakistan also, but Pakistan is not able to implement that. But same technology available in India, we're able to implement that.
So apart from technology being there, you have to ensure that implementation is also quite important. So coming back to your question as to how technology can be used, apart from doing VCs and all and doing Zooms or doing other using other apps for this. Sometimes we do clientele interaction also on mobile phones on VCs. Earlier, we could have done a physical interaction with the client. Physical conference was required, but a virtual conference is easily done today also by with clientele. Apart from that, a lot of reading judgments is done online. Of course, some would argue that physical reading of judgment through books is the better process. Then you encapsulate what's the meaning of judgment. But in today's time, like you said, saving time and time is of the essence. You might want to get on to work because no one has the time to go through 20 judgments in one day. But the fact of the matter is, there are when complex legal issues are involved, you do need 20 judgments in one day. So that can be done only by technological usage only. So that's one using various apps, SEC Online, Manupatra, a lot of different websites for judgments. You can use that. Clientele interaction can be done. Interestingly, a lot of legal fees and legal remuneration are done through technology only. I mean, a lot of clients do Paytm to clear their invoices also, lawyers' fees. So that's also another benefit which lawyers can now face. One example which I can give you, which I saw in District Court Sake, was that there was a dispute between two families living in same house, on one living in ground floor, one living in first floor, and those living in first floor had denied access to those living in ground floor to the terrace. So the people living on first floor had denied those living in ground floor from going to the terrace. That was a normal civil suit filed in Saket Court. The judge ADJ had very interestingly told the lawyers to sit back and called the client in the front and ask them to explain the case. They took 1 hour in explaining the case. He said one thing: I am creating a WhatsApp group. Every member who is standing here in front of me would be involved, would be become a member of the WhatsApp group, and the lawyers will also become member of the WhatsApp group. And uh, the first people on living on the first floor would be granting access to the those living in the ground floor after a request is granted on the WhatsApp group. And she said that if I see anyone not that blue tick, disabling that blue tick so that no one gets to read that, then I'll issue contempt. That's one example I saw where a judge has said that you create a WhatsApp group, and if there's a request to go to the first floor, you put it on the group, and those living on the first floor will allow that. So that's an innovative way of using technology just to solve out differences. So that's yeah,
I
that's
mean, never heard of something like this. I mean,
yeah,
we all actually hate WhatsApp groups, even especially when it comes to the family groups, but we haven't
yeah,
heard of something getting resolved, especially in a court
yeah.
with a WhatsApp group. That's pretty
And that,
crazy if I
and,
may use that word.
and that came from the judge. That was not a lawyer's innovative thinking. That was a judge's innovative thinking.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, if a judge can
Yeah.
come up with something like this, it is of course creating some footprint in the industry. That this session has been a beautiful session so far, Vaibhav. You also touched upon the time segment, the saving time segment, using the tools, the technology around you in the legal industry. So my last question from you would be, how do you really manage your time? You see, it's very important, and it's money. Time is money in any profession, and we all say in legal it's most of all. But how do you ensure to make the best out of your time, not just as a lawyer, but as a lawyer in the professional and the personal zone of your life?
That's a good question. I can't give a good answer to that, unfortunately, because I am at the receiving end of not maintaining time balance. Sometimes I'm 15 minutes late in court, sometimes 20 minutes, sometimes I have to take a passover. So yeah, time management is quite essential, quintessential like any other profession. Managing time is difficult when you are full day in court. Then you have to deal with the client after 4 p.m. after court hours. Sometimes you have arbitration hearings also in the evening around 6 p.m., 7 p.m. Then you prepare for next day's hearing and you go through the files. Sometimes you have late clientele meetings. Sometimes you have late conferences at 10 in the night, at 10:30 or sometimes 9:30. Be that virtual or physical, it still takes a toll on you. So time management is difficult. How you can manage is that, of course, you can maintain a diary and coordinate with your peers and sometimes clients. And what I can give my opinion and give my 2 cents is that don't keep anything lagging, because it might look like a small work today, but 10 days online, it will be be on your head that I need to clear this and spending for 10 days. So any work, be it small or large, just finish it as soon as possible, instantly if it's possible. Of course, if it takes time, but that's the only way you can deal with time management. Because don't let it procrastinate beyond 2 days or 1 day. Because if it goes beyond 2 days, 3 days, then it will be there beyond 10 days also, as it has been in my personal feeling and my personal experience. So dealing with time management is a difficulty with everyone has, but if you can try to do work and not procrastinate beyond 2 days, then I think you can fair enough take care of it.
This was a beautiful answer. You said you're the receiving end when you're sort of sometimes late in the good, but this was a very true and honest of you being with us. And as I said, this has been a wonderful session, Vaibhav, so far. This is the last one actually that I have. Where can our viewers really find you to get a hold of you?
Get a hold of me on social media or like
Yeah, on social media, where they can actually find you, over LinkedIn, or are you more comfortable connecting over which platform with them?
so I'm there everywhere. I'm on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. I have a Twitter account, but no one really follows me on Twitter. So, but I'm there on other apps. So I can be, you can reach out to me. I think you can just type Vaibhav Mishra 282. You'll find me on Instagram, on LinkedIn also, and on Facebook also. I'm there everywhere. Any place one can contact me, not an issue.
Let's do this then. In this, for our viewers, in the description of this session, you will find Mr. Mishra's Twitter handle, specially, and I want everyone to follow him. I personally will be following him from now, and I want you to post some of these crazy cases, as you said, the WhatsApp group one. You know, these are something that is what this microblogging website is meant for. And thank you very much, Mr. Mishra, for this for your time and sharing such great insights with us today. And we, of course, look forward to having a great chat with you again in the future on some other trending topics in the international finance industry. I'm sorry, international legal industry as well. And thank you very much for the session. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you. Thank you. It was a wonderful experience of mine also. So it was a great experience, and I hope what my views were helpful for the viewers, and I hope it will have some kind of impact somewhere or the other. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Oh, indeed, it will. We'll of course see it in the comments. And to acknowledge our viewers, if you like this chat with Mr. Mishra, I want you to like this video, to share this video, and of course, click on that red button and subscribe to ClickAway Creators YouTube channel to appreciate what we do. And you have more coming in from legal industry leaders like Mr. Vaibhav Mishra itself. Thank you very much. This was Target for Let's Talk World, signing off.